5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Strange Oddities Podcast, live podcast. We had a little bit of technical issues in the very beginning of the show. We worked them all out. I have a real exciting guest tonight, so we're skipping all big intros and fancy stuff I usually do, at the beginning of the show, being that we're a little bit into the time here of our podcast. But that's okay. I'm the producer of the show. We can make this show as long as we want. That's the great thing about producing your own show. I love being my own host without worrying about any of that stuff. So, again, welcome to Strange Oddities Podcast, guys. You want to email me, strangeodditiespodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Again, it's pretty simple to remember. Strange Oddities Podcast. Look us up on Facebook. Follow us. The way you're going to get information about upcoming guests is if you follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. If you want to ask our fabulous, exciting guests that we have tonight any questions, we do have a chat room. It's not much, but it's there. We have a little bit of a comment section on YouTube next to the video. It's not fancy. It's there. Again, ask away any questions you like. Jeff is not afraid to answer any questions, which is great. And so without further ado, now that we got all that out of the way, 40 years as a lawyer. This man had a dark family secret that was kept for a long time. Later in life, he learned he was the great-great-grandson of the notorious serial killer known in our country as the American Ripper. He was kind of a copycat of Jack the Ripper. There was a lot of things he did that kind of copycatted Jack the Ripper. We have the author of Bloodstains, Mr. Jeff Mudgett, which in his book, he gets a little bit into how he discovered his family secret, how they came to find out that he was the great-great-grandson of the deemed serial killer, the American Ripper. I'm excited to have you on the show, Jeff Mudgett. Welcome. I'm honored. Thank you so much for doing the show tonight. And having patience with all the technical stuff. Us simple guys like simple.
Hey, Matt, it's a pleasure to be on with you on Strange Oddities. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I've long been an admirer of many of your posting comments on Facebook, so I'm excited about this tonight. And let me just be honest with all your listeners, the technical difficulties were my fault, not yours. You were in great shape. I agree.
No, you didn't. We're simple men, and we like simple things, and nothing is ever simple for simple men. Right? Yeah. But anyway, I'm real excited about tonight, guys. I've interviewed Jeff in the past with past shows. Had him interviewed before, and it's like, I love the way he described our podcast in the past, where it makes us feel like we're sitting in a bar having a drink, just chatting it up, a couple of guys getting along, having a brewski or a gin, whatever your heart desires. But I mean, where do I begin with this interview? I mean, for yourself personally, before we get into some real exciting new information that you're going to share with our viewers later, which is really cool, tell a little bit to our viewers that are new to Mr. Jeff Mudgett and Bloodstain. How did you come about this secret, this dark secret of your family, and how was your initial reaction when you first discovered all this?
Well, imagine yourself 40 years old, practicing California law, and you lose your grandfather, who was a quiet, stoic man. Your father drives up with some goodies that he left behind when he passed, your grandfather, and your particular name on them that he wanted you to have. At that moment, you find out that your great
Yeah, I was just told, but behind the scenes, our audio is a little off. So I'm going to try to correct that as we continue on. So, um, I'm not sure if you can turn up your volume on your end, um, Jeff. So if there's any way that you can check to make sure your volume's up, that's all I can suggest for now. I mean, everything here seems to be up and running. Yeah,
This is the I Skype this on the computer I use to write.
right.
I've got a couple of another book going, and I don't I use an iPad for my audio material, but maybe I don't get heard anything in the chat box yet.
No, I know. you I know. I'm praying to the audio gods that we can, quickly discover what's going on here. So
You can't hear me at all.
she's saying, they can barely hear you. So the
Let's try it again.
okay.
I'm good at this stuff. Not good at it.
We're trying, guys. We're trying to get the audio a little louder. Um, my wife in the background, who is a blessing for helping us out, is
Wait, hold on.
okay.
Does anybody have any ideas on why these speakers muted?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. So we're trying to get Jeff's audio working here. So bear with us, guys. Um, we may have to start that all over again because yeah, your mic isn't coming through as I can see on the equalizer of the program that I have here. So yeah, they're definitely not hearing you. Yeah, if you could find the option where right. Eh,
This is what I write on
if you find the option where if you see like a microphone setting.
I have that. I have the microphone is
Yeah, there should be like an option where it says mute or uncheck or check where it says it's muted. If it says it's muted, you can uncheck it.
do I have to hit enter before I do that?
No, you should just be able to click on it. So like all right, if you're on Skype and you go on your click on your name with the three dots, okay, you're gonna get a window prompted and it's gonna say a bunch of things on the left, and you're gonna
Okay, video settings.
right, you're gonna go to audio and video,
It's microphone.
and then you should go to audio and video setting, and you should be able to see some options there.
Dots going across the menu. Oh boy.
So it'll be a little drop down box if you do get to the
I've got speakers muted here, and it's got a line through the speaker.
okay. Okay. Did you go into the Skype settings or just
Yeah, no, I did.
okay?
It's showing that the volume went up. You want me to go back to that?
Right. Okay. How about on your actual desktop screen where your volume icon is at the I don't know where you have your icon for your volume on your screen for the main volume.
You know what? Hold on. That might be. I have to. Just hold on.
Well, I'm gonna look. Hang on.
It should be better. I'm getting more of a register on sounds.
Hmm.
The line across the page
Right, right.
is showing my voice registering hits.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get. I'm gonna close you out and get you back in. I'm not gonna close out of Skype. You know that. I'm not gonna click off of that. Um, I'm gonna see if this works. Hang on. Just bear with me as I get.
You're gonna end the call and call me back?
No, no. I'm not ending the call. I'm gonna keep you on the call.
Alright.
Yeah. No. That. I'm not gonna lose the call. I'm not gonna lose you. Don't worry, guys. We're gonna work this out for those who can hear me. I'm pretty sure that people can hear me. So I'm just gonna try to get our listeners to bear with us here. As everybody knows, whoever runs a podcast, there's technical stuff that is not always in your control. And
Can you hear me any better now? Microphone and speakers muted. Okay, I'll click that. Okay.
okay, hang on. All right, got you back. All right, now I have you.
You do?
Yep.
All right.
Working on it. I gotta fix your screen again. Everybody's gonna see a little Jeff Mudgett.
There you go. That's fine.
All right.
It definitely does have a speaker's muted down at the bottom, a little icon with a line through the speaker.
Right, right. No, I have you now.
Okay.
Your audio is now online,
Okay.
and hopefully, our listeners can hear you. All right, I think we corrected the problem. So,
You're a genius, Matt.
I'm not a genius. I just try to work through it. All right. See, I missed my calling years ago. I should have worked for an IT department or a IT company working with computers because that's my love. That's my passion. I love technical stuff, and I get through the pain. So,
Yeah.
guys, we're back live with Mr. Jeff Mudgett, the author of Bloodstains. If you're joining us late, if you stop watching because of technical stuff, we apologize. But we're back. Hopefully, everybody can hear us. If you can hear us, let us know. Go in the chat. There's a little chat next to the video box. Please let us know what's going on. We really appreciate it. I think we worked it out so we can continue this interview as if nothing happened. How's that? All right. So, we last left off, we were talking about how Mr. Mudgett discovered his dark family secret that imagine for, almost 40 years being a lawyer, an average hard worker like yourself, and, you're just going about your business, and all of a sudden you discover upon your research and findings that you are the great-great-grandson of the deemed American serial killer H. Holmes, and you write this book called Bloodstains. And I recommend it to everybody to get it because I have it myself. I bought it. I've interviewed Mr. Mudgett a couple of years ago in the past on other podcasts I used to host. But can you, without spoiling too much, what can people expect in the book of Bloodstains?
Well, imagine, a normal life, somewhat normal, married, children, all those things, a successful business. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're given the darkest secret of all. Your great great grandfather was the most evil man in American history. And instead of blowing it off, Matt, like we've talked about before, it fascinated me, haunted me, really. And I decided to set aside all that stuff and go see what was legend, what was lore. And I started researching
Right.
H. Holmes. Herman Webster Mudgett was his real name in that Chicago murder castle. And I decided to write a book. I wrote Bloodstains, which is sold, I think we're over 25,000 copies now, self-published.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats. Congrats.
We had a History Channel came and knocked on the front door and wanted to meet a co-host, national miniseries called American Ripper, which many of your listeners may have seen. We actually went further than that. We decided we were going to go to London and see if we could prove he was also Jack the Ripper, one of my other theories.
Right.
And then History got permission to fund an exhumation process.
Really?
Project where we actually dug the grave up to see if he actually had been hung and buried in 1896.
Right.
After having been convicted of murder in a Philadelphia courtroom. So it's gone on and on. It's been 10 years of my life, the last 10 years really. And it had been slowing down usually. And now all of a sudden, Matt, and like I said, I'll try to hold back on some of this new material for you till at the end of the show. But now it's heating back up, and there's a lot of interest all of a sudden about this terrible man, horrible man, a monster really.
Right.
And it looks like the story's going to finally be told the right way, which I've been waiting for years.
Right. That's good. That's good. Well, that was my next question, actually, which I'm glad you brought that up because, like, how was it as a family to kind of live with that kind of dark history, you know, over your head, so to speak, where you were like, how is this going to affect my life and my work? And I can't imagine, you know, how that would affect some of that things in your life, you know, for a person that had probably a good rapport or a good reputation at his job, and you know your family's just going on with their everyday life, and now they have this over them, and like, did you guys get together saying, how are we going to handle this? Like, what are we going to do with this? Like, did you prepare yourselves?
You know, I have the highest regard for my family, Matt, and my father's supported this whole process and project the whole way. His brother has been a big supporter of the show and my book. Matter of fact, he had to agree to the exhumation. He could have shut the whole thing down just by saying no. So I have the highest regard and respect for my family. They've been with me the whole time. Now, there were times when some of them refused to talk to me for 3 or 4 months at a time because of the stigma that well, let's face it, having this man in your background, it's not like saying you had Abraham Lincoln in your background.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
It's not that. So there were some that it bothered, and that's reasonable. But they all came around to realizing this is something that I had taken on. It was a curse almost. I had to do it, and they knew me, you know, the things that I'd done in the past. And they decided that they were going to stick with me, and they have ever since.
Right. That's good. That's good support. I mean, that really helps, especially with having something like that, you know, in your family's background. I'm sure you guys were bombarded by the media left and right once the book was out, and you're getting, you know, phone calls and everybody and their mother, you know, wanting to interview you, and which in a way I was really happy that when I first came across you before all that got really super big, like, I think you were just about to film for the History Channel series, and you were just starting that out, and me and that co-host at the time were like, we better get this guy on our show real fast because he's going to be like booked up like crazy. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm going to schedule him, and then I was excited we got you on, and you know, so, you know, yeah, how's it been so far, like the ride with the media and everything?
It was, to tell you the truth, that I was always attracted to that part of it. The media that gave me a fair shot, okay? The media that actually listened to some of my theories with an open mind. And there were a few that did. Most, as you can imagine, Matt, didn't.
Right.
Most were calling me those names you can imagine about, here's this crazy American that thinks his great-great-grandfather was Jack the Ripper and hadn't been actually executed. And the names started rolling in. The thing that gave me the legitimacy of all was when TED Talks allowed agreed to let me go up on stage with them, and then going on shows like Coast to Coast, the big shows across the country. And then history deciding, wait a minute, there's something here. That they had a production team there that had read my book, had studied the theories, had watched the TED Talk, and they thought there was something to be looked into here, something with their budget that we might be able to prove. And as you can imagine, that was my dream. That American Ripper was every author's dream, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of lessons about producing a television show.
Sure.
I learned a lot of things that you shouldn't do about producing a television show.
Right.
Um, and then uh, and then, like I said, it started to slow down. The interest in Holmes had kind of died off the last couple of years a little bit,
Right. Right.
and now it's going through the roof. And I can tell you this: the things that are happening right now, 2 years from now, Holmes is probably going to be the most talked about historical figure in the United States for sure, and maybe in the world, because
Right.
the UK finds him fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my theories about him being the Ripper, they're actually my number one fan club in the UK.
Right.
So it's going to go through the roof, and you've got some of the biggest players in Hollywood doing it right now.
Sure.
Paramount, Hulu. It's owned by Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese. It's going to be a really, really big show, and I can't wait to get on that wave and ride with them to maybe have the world take a second look at some of my scientific theories about what really happened.
Right. Right. Yeah, I was just gonna mention Leonardo DiCaprio because I remember there being something with him involved, and there was a little bit of news about it, but then it got quiet about him being involved, and then now it's back out there again. And I guess with everything going on right now, with the world, so it's probably affecting everything, including production of filming and whatnot. So yeah, I can't wait for that information to come out and when it's going to come out, and that's going to be exciting to watch because I can't wait to see how they go about their perspective on that. Um, Now, one of my questions for you, Jeff, is now I know in the book you get a little bit into your theories with Mr. H. Holmes, but like for the people who are reading your book and for the viewers who are listening and watching this podcast right now, if they know a little bit about H. Holmes, he was kind of a copycat of Jack the Ripper, even though like you still are behind your theory that he could be the actual Jack the Ripper with some of your theory. What are your thoughts on how the things that he copycatted from him was everything like to a T? Was everything in description of what he did exactly what he did, or?
No, I don't think so. You have to remember in 1888 the newspaper accounts of Jack the Ripper, the London papers, they crossed the Atlantic. They were being played up in the New York Times. They were played up all over the country and the papers here too. So the what I've always found interesting, Matt, was how the papers played up that this one man, Jack the Ripper, had murdered these 5 women, the 5 Ripper victims that history generally tacks on to the Ripper.
Right.
But when you dig in and you start playing with the evidence, you realize that 2 of the murders happened before Jack the Ripper, the phrase, was ever even invented or used by anyone. And then the last of the 5 was totally separate and distinct from the first 4. And it's when I started digging into those kind of facts and realizing that history may have had it wrong for a long time.
Right.
I got fascinated with the entire subject. And then one day I had a fellow named Mark Potts introduce himself to me about his theory, and he'd been working on it for 10 years, that Holmes had been Jack the Ripper, and he had handwriting evidence to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And, having practiced that kind of law in California, I took that off running. And took it a little further than Mark had, and the evidence started looking very clear to
Mm-hmm.
me that while not enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a trial, a criminal trial, before a jury, there was enough here for history to consider the possibility, and that's what we did. And that's listen, we had a the number one cable television network in America spend millions of dollars producing American Ripper, so it was a big success. Big
Yeah.
success.
No, absolutely. Now that I'm glad you brought that up too, as far as like the grand jury or in front of a jury kind of thing. With all the research and evidence that you guys have come up with, not only with your personal research, but with the TV series American Ripper and having the young lady that worked with you on the show, which I watched the series, it was very good, and the investigative work that went into that, do you think that would actually hold up in court now?
No, no, it
Mm,
wouldn't. It wouldn't be enough to send a man to prison or have him executed for murder. I'll be honest with you on that, despite the fact that I still think it was Holmes that murdered Catherine Eddowes, the third of the five, after he wrote the Dear Boss letter. And the lady you're talking about, Amaryllis Fox, the ex-CIA operative,
yes, yes,
she never agreed with me that it was H. Holmes that had been Jack the Ripper.
right.
But you know what? One of the things I hold the highest regard for Amaryllis was, despite her disbelief, she still jumped in and worked as hard as she could on my theory with the possibility that it could be true. So I always admired her for that.
Right, right. Yeah, she kind of did like a lot of more like forensics type of work, than to go with her investigative style that she did, with her background. So that's what really made the show really kind of cool, for me personally, as a fan and viewer of the show. Um, it was successful. Is there talks of maybe continuing that TV series or? I know you guys did one season. There was what 8 episodes, and is there talks of maybe doing more?
That's all it was ever scheduled to be, the miniseries.
Okay.
I was disappointed. The first 7 episodes I thought were incredible. The recreations of Holmes in London and
Oh
the
yeah,
murder were
yeah.
some of the best television ever, if you ask me. The young actor that they had play Jack the Ripper was incredible.
Mhm.
Uh, the final episode was a chaotic mess. It was just a mess. And there were some problems on the set in production. And I've been trying to talk them into perhaps reopening, to not only consider the evidence again of the exhumation, which I don't think proved it was Holmes in the grave. As a matter of fact, the evidence we have now, I think, disproves it was Holmes in the grave.
Right.
But also to see if someone like history, with their funds,
Mhm.
would agree to take the next step, Matt, and excavate the murder castle grounds there at
Mm.
63rd and Wallace in Chicago. And Matt, you jump in here with me on this. Imagine how many millions of people would be interested in watching that architectural process
Yeah.
about this horrible place in American history. I mean, I think it'd go through the roof.
Yeah. I actually, it would be it kind of sounds weird, but that's the whole reason I'm doing Strange Oddities podcast, because weird things happen here on Strange Oddities podcast in the first place. But one of the weird things that I would like to get into is the paranormal aspect of Jack the Ripper or H. Holmes, where maybe you could do paranormal work and research, where you could maybe, um, end up doing like EVP sessions with, where some of the murders took place, and ask the victims, if their spirit's still there, because their life was, ended tragically, by murder, obviously, and you could have some kind of paranormal evidence that could point, your could point things in different directions in areas that you never thought of. So for me, like, I would totally be into that perspective that you were talking about, but I would love to go over to London and go over to that side of things, and investigate further over there, and make comparisons to both H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. That would be awesome.
You know, do you remember a television show before American Ripper I was on called Haunted History?
Yes.
And they did an episode about the murder castle.
Yep.
And I had told the fellas, this was a Hollywood production outfit. The guys that did American Ripper were a New York City production outfit, and then they worked for History. But I had told the Hollywood outfit, listen, and I wrote about it in the book. When I first went down into that basement, the post office basement, and you and I've discussed this before. The post office sits off to the side of where the murder castle was. There's an overlap on the one wall and the border, but the post office, as many people think, it wasn't laid straight over the top of the murder castle.
Right.
But there were still original tunnels down in the basement that Holmes had constructed himself.
Yeah.
So when that first time I went down into that basement. And the post office employees believed it was haunted. They didn't go down in that basement. There was the custodian would do it, but the other employees wouldn't. And
Yeah.
you could see when we went down there, it wasn't used. There were spider webs and dead rats and everything.
Well, that would stop me. That would stop me right away.
Well, when I went down those steps, I didn't believe in ghosts. I didn't believe in goblins. I didn't believe in, to tell you the truth, spirits or even God. All right. When I came back up an hour later, I believed in all of them from the energy I felt down in that basement. So I talked this Hollywood outfit into, hey, do you guys want to get proof of haunted on television? You know, you want to follow me back down? I think I can get permission from the post office to go back down in there.
That would be great.
You guys can film me. So we got permission. They agreed to do it, and they did the haunted history episode. But when we went down that second time, Matt, nothing. No energy, no voices, no visions, nothing.
Hmm.
And it was almost like those 30 people that went down with me on the television production and it canceled anything off that whoever was down there wanted to be. They didn't want to be part of television. So.
Yeah. Well, in my line of work with the paranormal, we learned that it depends on the approach, the intent. Sometimes it depends on the energy of not only whatever is still there, but the energy with the people that are involved in the investigation. There's a lot of factors that could, maybe not get you good results or bad results, and why things don't happen or why they do happen. We can't prove those things, scientifically, with what we do, but that would be fascinating if you ever went back and actually, like I said, through a paranormal investigation, to try to add more evidence to your research through other means of research. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, when we tried to go back into the basement on American Ripper, it wasn't handled well, and the post office said no.
Mm.
We would have liked to have filmed that again. I know the director was looking forward to doing that. He believed in the paranormal and wanted to be the one that actually showed the world the proof. And he thought that was, there's been many articles written that if ever a place is haunted and if ever a ghost is going to be proven, it's going to be in that basement at 63rd and Wallace. And we didn't get the chance to go back in. The post office pretty much shut the door.
Yeah. So I remember if I remember correctly, there were a couple of other researchers and a couple other books done on H.H. Holmes. I personally enjoy your investigative work and your story in Bloodstains because this is a personal tie to you and your family, so you can become a little more descriptive with your book and what you put in there. What's your thoughts on the other research that's been done, in comparison? Not that I'm forcing anybody to say, oh, mine's better than yours, and not trying to do that kind of thing, but I know there's been a ton of other books and research into H.H. Holmes, but yours has been like off the hook because again it's surrounding your family history, and now with American Ripper backing you up with History Channel and stuff, like you said, it's opened more doorways.
Well, and I don't. I learned long ago, Matt, that I don't just talk about other people's work or their having called me names, any of those things. I gave up on that a long time ago. The first couple of years I was involved in this, there was some ugly fights about how many people Holmes actually murdered.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
I have never told anyone I know how many people this man killed. He was the master of eliminating evidence of murder. All right. He
Right.
was the best ever lived at that.
Yeah.
And whether he murdered 9 or 13 or 27 or 100, I have no idea. But I learned early that those things, that was how other people got publicity. They would get into those kind of arguments. So the stuff that's coming out now, there's some strange stuff coming out now about, oh, I don't even want to get into it, but it's, there's virtual tours and things like that.
Uh,
And all I like to go on shows like yours, Matt, to discuss is I learned early on that authors that write books based on newspaper articles from 1890,
mm-hmm.
they don't have any facts. Those are
Right.
all hearsay. When you go research those articles, Matt, you know what you find out? The reporter wasn't even there at the scenes he was writing about.
Right.
It's very, very difficult. And I'm the only one, Matt, that's actually got put a shovel in the ground, got DNA, had a skeleton, had a skull in his hand, those things.
Yeah.
And you know what I'd like to do? These guys that are writing other books and making YouTube movies, I'd like to see them take the next step. I'd like to see them go to DePaul or the University of Illinois. I'd like to see them get the Travel Channel to back them up and have them dig up 63rd and Wallace.
Yeah.
Let's do an archaeological dig. It doesn't have to involve me.
Right.
I don't have to be involved in it.
Right.
But let's see them take that step. Let's see them get someone donate millions of dollars and see if there's any evidence that Holmes was Jack the Ripper down in that ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what's there.
Right.
And those are the things I'm waiting for rather than just another book about hearsay from 1890.
Right.
And but it's America. There's 2 million new books a year, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be books about Holmes till the cows come home.
Yeah.
And when this Hulu series come out, you're going to see 100 new books about Holmes. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Let's talk about the new information. Now, if you don't mind, you said that I'd like to share with our listeners and viewers that we spoke earlier in the week, and today actually there's some new information, exciting information that Jeff wants to share with everybody about his endeavors with H.H. Holmes. So if you want to share the exciting news, go right ahead.
Well, every morning I have a phone conference with my team of investigators. Vanessa Hogel, who's my forensic dentistry expert, and she helps me with the teeth that we dug up in the grave and how we can use those to prove that it wasn't Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Kroom helps me with all the information we dig up about Holmes having, we think, Matt, we're going to be able to drop on the world proof that he was in California after the so-called execution. We have a picture of my grandfather and his brother over a grave. It's in the San Diego Union in 1961, and it's over a grave, and the headstone is H.H. Herbst. All right, and we're verifying the name right now because Holmes used so many aliases. You could fill up the phone book with all his aliases. But to me, those kind of ultimate coincidences where these two brothers, that his grandsons, that's who they were, are at this grave with HHH on the headstone. Wow. So we're gonna run that. We've got some stuff coming out, and when I meet with these every morning with my team of investigators who are just I love giving their names out on shows like yours because I wouldn't be here without them. They're incredible. But we're also meeting with medical examinators from police stations who are interested in working with us. Nice. We have a forensic pathologist. We have independent anthropologists now working on the skeleton. We have one that says he can prove that that skeleton that we dug up was too short to be H.H. Holmes. He says skeletons don't shrink. That's not him. He'll stand up in a court of law and swear it. And so we've got all these scientific factors working out, including the DNA, which wasn't a match. That's one of the things that last episode disappointed me so much about when they declared the DNA a match. It wasn't. And I can prove it. Right. So we've got all these new materials coming up. And then about 2 weeks ago, Matt, a Hollywood outfit bought the movie rights to my book, Bloodstains.
Wow, congratulations.
They're interested in producing a feature film.
Wow, congratulations.
So thank you. And with that feature film, with the Devil in the White City series on Hulu, with history potentially opening up American Ripper to look at that evidence more closely this time, maybe with more of a scientific bent, and then the other factors too. I think we're in the driver's seat, Matt, right now, and I want to thank you for letting me come on the show to explain to your listeners what that is right now.
Yeah,
but things are moving very, very rapidly about setting American history straight. And I'm really excited about it. That photograph in San Diego, just think of it. These two grandsons standing over a grave in 1961, which would have been 100 years after Holmes was born. Right. We don't know when the funeral, the burial was for that photograph, because all we have is those two brothers standing there in 1961. But we're working right now on proof that Clara, his legal wife, the one that he had the son with, the one that visited him in the prison, Moyamensing prison, before the execution, was living in San Francisco, in Vallejo. And we're going through the property records right now, and this is an amazing. This story never stops.
No, Matt. It just keeps going.
Now, I just, okay, I had something happen here with the, let me see if I can get you back. Did I get you back?
Oh,
okay, I think I got you back. How are we?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, I had an Apple software update come on.
At all the times, right?
Yeah. So, but we're real excited about all the things happening. I'm the Hollywood people that want to make the movie of my book, Matt. What excites me about them the most is Leonardo and Martin Scorsese, when they owned The Devil in the White City, they knew there was a problem with the book, that it was about two men, the Burnham, the architect of the World's Fair, and Holmes, the murderer, the master of the murder castle. And the book was about two men, and they didn't ever meet each other. So to put that into a movie, they were having a lot of trouble with that. Plus, they also knew that a Leonardo DiCaprio epic film of the Chicago World's Fair was going to cost a couple $100 million to produce. They decided to put that aside, let that be made into a series, and right now they're making a Teddy Roosevelt movie where Leonardo, I think, is going to play Teddy Roosevelt, which, you know, it's probably a better idea if you're going to get down to black brass tacks. So those things, there's a lot of things in the air about Holmes, and I'm just excited that my dream is to get history to say, you know, Jeff, we think we made a mistake. We'd like to reopen that last episode. We'd like to have, with scientists sitting around a table with you discussing each piece of evidence, let's see what a court of law would use that evidence for in proving that a man committed murder, and see how it comes out. And it might be that I'm totally off, Matt. It might be that everyone puts the thumb down on me. I doubt it, but I'd like to give it a try.
I think this could like open up a whole new world actually into the investigation, because like you said, this story just keeps going and going and going. The further you go, and the further you go, the more information you find, and it's just like endless. It's just like it's almost as if it's infinity. You know,
he was the most incredible con man, and I use that in a negative sense. Okay, he's an infamous man. He was a terrible man. He was the worst possible. I'd like to use it, Matt, that science opens up this world about him to maybe see if we can use it to predict the next one that comes along.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, now that to me would make someone should be interested in that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'd like to see that. Now the movie guys, they don't want to make the movie about 1896 Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
What got me so excited, Matt, is they want to make the movie about me at 40 years old, all of a sudden having this terrible thing revealed, and this haunting that I was worried about becoming the next, and how that that Dexter story, that X-Files look, those kind of things, and I'm really interested in them doing a movie like that.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of funny, because I was thinking of a question like that earlier in the podcast, because I was thinking to myself, should I go there?
Yes, go.
Yeah, because I'm like, what, like this kind of story makes you think, with your relation to him, is there a possible way that with genetics and having hereditary things from him into you now, and is it possible for you to carry any of those traits into you? Or like I always thought about that, like hereditary wise, genetics wise, you're a great guy, you're a positive person, and that's another thing I want to commend you about too, is like I want to tell our listeners and viewers and avid followers of yours that you've taken something with such a dark history and you've actually flipped it upside down into something more positive thing, and opened up the doorway to more positive things about what you've discovered. And like you said, it can also maybe help other investigators, in the future, how to handle investigations and prevent certain things with others and whatnot. So it'd be really interesting how they dive into your psychological evaluation of you and your great-great-grandfather.
Well, and you know what? And I'm willing to help on those things. I'm not afraid of that. My father and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
We have idiosyncrasies, Matt, that we know are related to him. We know it. It's not anything we're proud of. We're proud that we didn't let it turn us that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm epileptic and I have seizures. As a matter of fact, I've had a couple of terrible seizures while driving that ended up in accidents to where I had to give up driving. The neurologist recommended that I stop.
Wow.
I've always wondered, because if you go back in history, Matt, some of the terrible men in history were epileptics that had seizures, that lost control of their actions. And I've often wondered, is that something science could look into, that epileptic seizure where a man loses control of his thought and his choices and does something horrible? Could Herman have been an epileptic?
Right.
Could Holmes? Yeah.
Yeah. No, because like there's like medical things that they didn't have the forensics that we have today in today's technology. We didn't have that kind of evaluation with medical things on people back then, even though they were brilliant people and brilliant doctors back then also. But when you can take that information and apply it to today's technology and doctors, why not?
I'm all for it. I think that would be something I could look back on and be proud that I was a part of that in my life. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe someone's listening to you and I right now and they run with that. I hope so. Because I'll tell you know what, you laugh, but I'll tell you something about, these last 10 years. You can't imagine how many doors have been opened, me going on shows like yours, from someone listening that knew someone that was in the business, forensics, true crime, Jack the Ripper, those things.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many doors have been opened just going on shows like yours. That's why I never turn them down. I've done hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like you said, you have this, I don't know, you already knew this. You have this ability to sit down at a bar and just be a friend with someone after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're good at that. And it's like right now on the show, I don't even know how many people are listening. I'm not even thinking. I'm just chatting with Matt. And it's But I do want to apologize to everybody that it was for the delay we caused, and it was my fault.
It's really it's no big deal. Like I was telling Jeff behind the scenes, I just kind of, after doing this for so long, I just kind of learned how to roll with things, and we kind of act as if it's not even happening, and we just try to try to go with it. That's my new motto in life. I just go with it. So there are things in life that we can't control, and a lot of it's technical stuff that we can't control. But we can control us. We can control how we are and how we respond. We can control our behavior. There are things that we can change about ourselves, and I do real quick, Jeff, if you don't mind. I want to just give a shout out to the people that are listening to the show tonight. Thanks for having patience and with us in the beginning. We do have a couple people in the chat group. John Yacht Paranormal is listening to us. Actually, friends of ours, avid listeners of our show. Thanks for listening and participating in the chat, guys. If you have any questions, go in the chat. It is up and running. If you have a question for me or for Jeff, you don't mind answering them, just feel free. Again, email me strangeodditiespodcast@gmail.com. Jeff, where can they find your book? I know there's a couple people today on Facebook that were asking where they can find your book.
If you just Google up Bloodstains, we got the whole page now. It's and the .com is there. It's easy. You can go to the ebook is Amazon has it for your Kindles. We've got an Emmy Award-winning actor that did the narration for us on audio, and it's excellent. He did a great job. And I actually step in on the dialogue in the book where I'm talking to the voice in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I step in and I play H.H. Holmes in the narration, so it's kind of fun. Wow. It's kind of fun, and they all said I did okay. And but then, like I said, you can go to .com, but I'll anyone that wants to stay up on the latest evidence, just go to the Bloodstains Facebook page and join in. I'll give you before we get off, Matt. I'll give you the latest. All right, one that's going to I think is going to turn the world upside down. The fellows at the University of Buffalo that ran their Cedar Fox computer program comparing the Dear Boss handwriting with the Holmes handwriting.
Okay.
They came back with 97%, which I ran on my TED Talk. And they're the same guys that are used by the FBI and the post office to compare handwriting in criminal cases.
Right, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, they contacted me and said, Jeff, if you can get someone to fund us to reprogram the computer to use the font that was prevalent in that day, we can almost guarantee you 100%.
Wow.
Imagine that. How about that for all you Jack the Ripperologists out there? 100% that Holmes wrote Dear Boss.
Wow. That's insane. Yeah.
Now, that doesn't prove he murdered Catherine Eddowes, but that puts us on the right track.
Yeah. I mean, that blows it right open again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Would you say that H.H. Holmes' investigation and Jack the Ripper investigation, I would safely say that they're still open cases, if I'm not mistaken.
You ask me, I think we solved it. But it's what happened on American Ripper, Matt, was there was a disagreement about. My theory was that Holmes murdered one of the five. Mm-hmm. All right? There was a disagreement about that, and I wasn't in control of the production. And, then they were spending the money. They had the right to go how they wanted to go, and I wasn't of enough celebrity status to demand anything, okay? Right. And they did a great job. The recreation, like I said, are some of the best television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think you and I might have talked about this before, but Scotland Yard came up to me and said they disagreed with me that it was an American doctor, but they agreed with me that there had been one or two copycats. No one man killed all five. Mm. Scotland Yard told me that.
Wow.
So the mystery is there. Jack the Ripper can be solved, but it's not the story the world has made it out to be for the last 130 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. When do you think we can expect some more development with your endeavors there with Hollywood? And would you say like within a couple of years, or within like the next year, or?
if we weren't dealing with the coronavirus problems, I'd say that Hulu will come out with their series next year. And Matt, it's going to set records in viewership. There's 65 million people in America that are fascinated with true
Right.
crime and serial killers. All right.
Right.
There are 20, 30 million people in the UK that are fascinated with the home story.
Right.
I sell more books there than I do here.
Wow.
And that's coming out. They're going to set records. They're going to make, it's going to be huge, that series.
Right.
I would say it's at least 2 years for my movie.
Okay.
And I wanted them to do I want them to do a great job. So I'm not in any rush. But
Sure.
as far as when history sees that Hulu's going to come out with that series and it's going to go through the roof, I think some executive there in New York City is going to decide, you know what? Let's reopen. Let's take a look at that evidence that Mudgett keeps banging us around with.
Yeah.
And I think Matt, it's going to happen. It's just we just have to be patient.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I would be really excited if it happened on Strange Oddities podcast. So, toot my own plug there. But, guys, again, if you're listening late, we're excited to be here with Mr. The author of Bloodstains, Jeff Mudgett. He was on the, iconic TV series, American Ripper on History Channel. That was out not that long ago. When did it debut? It was last year, right? Yeah.
No, 3 years ago it ended.
3 years? Has it been 3 years?
3 years.
Oh my God! Where does time go, man? I'm thinking it's
Well,
like
2.5
year.
years. 2.5.
Okay, all right, 2.5. So it's just like I'm just like, holy cow! I don't know why I thought it was last year. So where can they contact you if you don't mind? If you want to share contact information, your website if you have one. Where can they hit you up as far as future interviews or things like that?
Like I said, go to the Bloodstains Facebook page. I've got almost 4,400 followers there. Just jump on and the team and I, Warren and Vanessa, we all try to get at least one new posting a day on there, so that people can see we're hard at work on it, and we admit when we come up short on something, but we like to trumpet when we have some new evidence comes up that it's got to be looked at, and it will be. But just jump on the Bloodstains Facebook page, and I'll welcome them all.
Right. Okay. And one last question for you: is there going to be a sequel to Bloodstains?
No, I don't think so. I'm writing a book called Falling in Purple right now. It's done. I'm just editing. When I was a youngster, Matt, I was fascinated with detective stories. All right. I love detective movies. I love, Robert Mitchum and the black and white, and Humphrey Bogart, the detective stories. And I decided it's pure fiction. It's the best of my ability to write a book, which I'm finding out is not easy. Bloodstains would have never sold as many as it did without my connection to my great grandfather. Okay, I'll admit that to you.
Right.
So this one has to do with me writing a book, and when it's finished, I'll drop you a copy, my friend. You can take a look.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I appreciate that. So this interview has been more than amazing. Despite the beginning of the show, again, Mr. Mudgett, I really, I couldn't be more excited to have you on Strange Oddities podcast. I hope you yourself had a lot of fun on the show. I know I did, and we can definitely do it again in the future. Sit down and have a chat again. Like two guys hanging out in the bar and shooting it up about Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes. And before you get too busy with Hollywood, I'd like to get you on again sometime in the future.
All right, and you know what? I want to do that. Let's sit down at a bar and talk about, between the two of us, how sexy it is to be bald, okay?
Yeah. Nobody does it. Nobody does it better than bald men. How about
that? No, I'll go with that. All right. And thanks for having me on tonight. All right.
All right. Yeah. No problem. If you want to just
apologize for the screw up when we started.
Yeah, no problem. Just hang on the call. I'll say goodbye to you just real quick after the show. And I just want to tell our listeners, thanks again for their patience. And, you guys can hit us up every week live on YouTube. You can follow the Strange Oddities podcast on YouTube. Just hit the little bell at the top right corner of the screen on the YouTube channel. Just tap on the link. It'll take you right there. It's not hard. It's right there at the top right corner. That'll subscribe to our show. I just want to give a quick shout out to my fellow radio podcasters out there. Supernatural Realm Radio. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, Jeff. I think you've been on their show in the past or have worked with Chip Reichenthal and Tim Roxbury. I want to give a shout out to them because I was on their show recently, and it would only be fair to let our listeners and viewers know that I was a guest on their show not long ago, and I want to thank them, physically on my show in person. That I had a really great time on their show. Guys, their show is really fun. It's a lot like mine. They talk about a lot of weird stuff, supernatural things. They talk about everything unexplained, and it's a really fun show. So just stop by their show anytime you get a chance. It's really great. They do a live audio show every week, and I think it's on Tuesdays. You can also check out Mr. Chip Reichenthal's show, Kindness Beyond the Veil, which is on every Monday night. They both have separate shows. So I just want to point everybody to their show because I had a great time. So that's my shout out for the night for them. Jeff, you have any shout outs tonight as far as your fans?
I'd just like to bring up Warren Kroom, my ace investigator. He's my Sherlock Holmes, and Vanessa Hogel, who helps me with the tough dental evidence that the University of Pennsylvania missed, and we're going to set the world straight about. And without them, I'd be nothing. So I like to give them a shout out.
Yeah, no problem. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that, people don't hear about or know about. And, one of those people, too, is my wife. And she hangs out in the chat room, moderating the chat room. I want to always make sure she knows that I thank everybody of what she does, in public, and making sure she knows I'm trying to be a good husband and tell her how much I love her for helping me out. So, anyway, Ganyak Paranormal, thanks for hanging out in the chat room tonight. Listeners, viewers, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Strange Oddities Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and we do have a website, strangeodditiespodcast.wordpress.com. That's pretty simple to remember. You guys can hit me up on any of those, and if you want to be a guest, strangeodditiespodcast@gmail.com. Real quick before I end the show, upcoming guests that I have coming up next week. I have the lovely Miss, the Fox Sisters historian. I have Miss Tracy Murphy. If you're familiar with the Fox Sisters, they had they were big into pushing the spiritual movement in the mid to late 1800s. The Fox Sisters were a big influence over modern day spiritualism, and I'm personally good friends with her, so I invited her on the show. But she's a very good historian about the Fox Sisters, and she's the current caretaker of the actual property, the foundation that still exists upstate New York. She oversees that, and I'm really happy to have her on the show next week, May 28th, Thursday at 8 p.m. That's Tracy Murphy next week. And the following week, we're going to have Adam Thorne of the new History Channel TV show Kings of Pain. Those guys are crazy because they take pain to the next level. These guys go out into the jungle and they find the most craziest animals and insects, and they try to create a new human pain index through a medical examination, and they actually take these things and they endure their own pain of these insects and animals all over the world, and it's just crazy, Jeff. And I can't wait to have Mr. Adam Thorne on my show. That's going to be, I believe, June 11th. June 11th is going to be Mr. Adam Thorne from Kings of Pain. I don't know. I'm building a good rapport with the History Channel. What can I say? All right. So, Jeff, I want to wish you a great night. Thanks again for being on our show tonight. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did. And I want to end it there and tell everybody be safe, be well, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. All right, gonna end the stream. Have a great night, guys.
All right. I still got you.